Point, Monday, July 28th, 2014, 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please rise and put your hand over your heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with the liberty and justice of God.
Thank you. The pledge was led by Cody. Thank you very much.
Not me.
I'm just good. And the minutes. Well, let's start with the roll call. I'm sorry.
Yes, Commissioner Newkirk has an excused absence, and please let the record reflect that all other commissioners are present.
Okay. And the approval of minutes, if you want to look at it, goes back. The draft Planning Commission meeting of the July 14, 2014 will be available for review and approval at the August 11th, 2014 Planning Commission meeting. Okay. So now we move on to the minutes. We move on to public comments. Anybody wishing to address the Planning Commission during the public comment portion or on an agenda item is asked to complete a request to speak form, which is available from our planning secretary, who's sitting up there. Okay. The completed form is to be committed to the secretary prior to the individual being heard by the Planning Commission. And any person wishing to address the Planning Commission on a subject other than those scheduled on the agenda is requested to do so at this time. In order to conduct a timely meeting, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person and an overall time limit of 15 minutes for the public comments portion of the agenda. Additionally, state law prohibits the Planning Commission from taking any action on any specific item unless it appears on our posted agenda. Do we have any public comments?
We have none.
Okay. We move on to the consent calendar. There are no items on the consent calendar. So we move on to the public hearing. Coastal Development Permit CDP 14005 to allow the demolition of an existing single-family dwelling and the construction of a new 4,073 square foot single-family dwelling with an attached 774 square foot 3-vehicle garage on a coastal bluff located at 35231 Camino Capistrano. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, Associate Planner Evan Langen will give the staff report.
Thank you, and good evening again, Commissioners. On your screen is the presentation for that item. As you mentioned, a CDP to demolish a single-family dwelling and to construct a new one in its place. The item is before you this evening, as was said in the title. The demolition of a single-family dwelling and construction of a new one both are triggers for a coastal development permit when a property is located, of course, in the Coastal Overlay District, otherwise known as the Coastal Zone, California Coastal Zone. On the screen is a vicinity map. Of course, there's a single-family dwelling there today, and as I said, slated for demolition. Generally, you can see the property is more or less in the Capistrano Beach portion of our city, and the property fronts a coastal bluff with, of course, the Pacific Ocean and Pacific Coast Highway immediately to the south. Another shot of the single-family dwelling, or the current home on the lot, I should say. The new home, the footprint of which is here on your screen, would comprise 4,073 square feet of habitable square footage and another 774 square feet devoted to a 3-vehicle garage. Again, the property fronts a coastal bluff. That location carries very specific rear yard setbacks, or setbacks from the delineated edge of the coastal bluff. In this part of Dana Point, the default setback is 40 feet from wherever it is determined that edge of bluff begins. However, our code says that you can reduce that setback to as little as 25 feet, and where it can be corroborated by geotechnical analysis, by experts, of course, that the site is stable enough to reduce the setback, that where future erosion is factored in, where the general site stability is analyzed, where it wouldn't result in damage to persons or property over time. In this case, that analysis has determined that 25 feet would be a feasible and safe setback. However, the new dwelling is proposed at its closest point to the edge of the coastal bluff at 32 feet. The floor plan, a single-story house, 5 bedrooms, along with other accessory rooms, all centered around or wrapping around a central courtyard. Elevation views, the home would stand a maximum of 22 feet. That is here, the entryway or courtyard, the entry feature, we'll call it, in front of the house. There's another term for it. I'll go back to the floor plan. But that's the tallest point of the house, at a little under 22 feet. The bulk of the dwelling, though, what you can see there in the background and foreground, would be about 17 or so feet in height, and as I mentioned, no more than a single story. 2 other views, the left and the right side of the house. In summary, the home complies with all development standards, fits within its setbacks. As I mentioned, the geotechnical analysis shows that the home is proposed in a safe location relative to the coastal bluff that the property contains. It meets landscaping and lot coverage requirements, and there have been no correspondence, no items of correspondence submitted for the project. Moreover, there isn't an HOA in the community. So being able to make all the findings for approval of the coastal development permit, staff recommends for approval of the project and subject to conditions in the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner questions?
Yes, Chair.
Denton?
Evan, I have a question, the usual one. I see the backyard had grass and probably has sprinklers. What is the plan going forward with the new house?
And forgive me, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, there are no improvements proposed within the rear one half of the property, save for the removal of any existing irrigation and removal of any non-native, non-drought tolerant plantings. Those are code requirements. Within the setback, at least, from the edge of bluff, no irrigation, new or existing, is allowed. Or rather, existing would be removed and no new irrigation would be permitted. And, of course, native drought-tolerant plantings are required. So existing hardscape that's there would remain, but anything that doesn't currently comply with code is slated to be removed.
And will some pumps be needed to remove the water from the lot forward to Camino Capistrano?
No, gravity flow is adequate. It goes in the correct direction toward the street, so no sump is proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions?
Yes. So they're not going to be regrading the lot. It's going to stay the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There are subtle differences in elevation, but no substantial gradings proposed.
And is there drainage, existing drainage right now that heads out to the street?
There
Or
is,
they're going to put it in?
I believe I'll defer to the architect for the details of that, but I believe there are existing inlets that funnel it to the street. And as I said, the natural grade already flows in the right direction. So sheet flow, gravity flow would already take water in the right direction. But I believe there are inlets nonetheless that catch water and route it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question on they're looking for a 32-foot setback as opposed to a 40-foot setback. What's the current setback?
Am I allowed to answer? It's exactly the same.
Can you go up to the microphone? Thank you.
It's currently the 32 feet. We're not moving either corner of the house. So we're keeping the back 2 corners in the same spot. And it's currently, as they measured it, 32 feet.
So it is currently 32 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have another comment?
No, I was just going to say if he was going to speak, we should open the public hearing. But
That would have been polite, right? Okay. Any other?
No.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay. So I now move to the public hearing portion. Item number 2. Do we have any speaker slips?
None, unless the architect would like to clarify any questions that you had.
I would like to hear from the architect, my fellow commissioners.
yeah.
Is there any specific item?
State your name and city.
Oh,
and
my
residence.
name is John Christner, the architect on Mr. and Mrs. Hills.
Do you have
You're
any?
just
Do you
here
have
for
any
questions?
specific questions? It seemed like everything was presented. as-
Maybe you could address the drainage issue.
The drainage issue is there are drains right now that go out to the street. We are obviously improving what's there. We're going to have new drains that are going to replace the older ones. But it's going to follow the same pattern from existing. We'll actually make improvements to the existing system with new piping. It'll have the new requirements are for additional grades to be a little steeper than what's allowed right currently. So that's nothing but improvement to the grading.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh.
Okay, that's fine.
I got to fill this out.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. You don't need to stay there to do that. You can fill it out and give it to the secretary.
What?
You can fill that out and give it to
Anytime?
the secretary.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Or?
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
it's easy for you. All right, so he's going to fill out that. Okay. So we have no other speakers. Guess we can move to closing the public hearing. Thank you. And come to Commissioner deliberations. Who wants to start off? Please.
I'll start. We'll go this way. I think that this is well designed and well thought out home, and I think that the conditions of approval and the findings are appropriate, so I'll be supporting the project.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioner. I think it's an upgrade to the neighborhood. It's nice-looking property, and the project, I think, is well-designed, and I would support it as well.
Vice Chair O'Connor.
Well, I'm looking at the photos here, and I notice these must be your toys. The project, every time we have projects on slopes like this, we always worry about drainage and slope slippage. And so I'm really happy to hear that you've, thought about the drainage and, are working with the drought-tolerant planting and that sort of thing to make sure that the slope, not only for your home, but your neighbor's home, stays intact, especially since we might have an El Nino year, so it's always good to make sure that the slope stays there. And the other, it's under these circumstances, as a planning commissioner, we have to rely on the geotechnical reports and make sure they know what they're doing and they're licensed to do that sort of thing. So that your home will be protected. And under those circumstances, I too will recommend approval.
Okay. I think that the project has been very well thought out. We are very familiar with projects up on that coastal bluff, and I believe that you are certainly complying with all that needs to be done. I think that the architecture is excellent, and I am in support.
I'd like to make a motion.
Vice Chair O'Connor?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion approving Coastal Development Permit CDP 14-0005 to allow the demolition of an existing single-family dwelling and the construction of a new 4,073 square foot single-story single-family dwelling with an attached 774 square foot 3-vehicle garage on the coastal bluff lot located at 35231 Camino Capistrano.
I'll second it. Second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Are we just doing a hand?
Hand vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And what am I moving on to? Moving on to new business. There is no new business. Moving on to staff reports.
The only thing that I wanted to mention is that we have canceled the second meeting in August, which is, looking here at my August 25th meeting. But we do have a couple of applications coming that are very close to being deemed complete, and they're going to want public hearings scheduled for Town Center. And we wanted to schedule those study sessions. And so there might be a need for some special meetings. And I just wanted to let you know, I don't have potential dates at this time, but I'll be sending out some emails so that we can get those scheduled. Because with the cancellation of that meeting and only 2 meetings a month, it would greatly, and with the last meeting being continued, applicants would potentially be waiting 3 months before they could have a public hearing. And so anyway, I will be contacting you all for some special meetings for those study sessions. That's it.
Okay. Any commissioner comments?
Okay, just to be clear, we have a workshop on the 4th of August,
Yes,
and that's going to be held in the community center?
correct, on Del Obispo at 6:30.
Okay, so that's next Monday. Okay, and then I wanted to, can I see your copy? The letter that was in our packet that was sent to the City Council and Planning Commissioners. And one of the items they brought up were the story polls. And I know that during that last public hearing, you talked about, well, there wasn't really there wasn't really a policy about it. There is in one area of town, but not another. And has there been any thought? And I guess I would like encourage a thought to come up with a comprehensive policy on that. Has there been any direction from the City Council yet on that?
No, there hasn't been any direction from the City Council, but the city architect, planning manager, and I have started talking about discussions in terms of some recommended actions related to that.
Okay, all right. And you'll be presenting those to us at some time, or?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I think that would be good. Was there anything else on this, the story polls? You have to help me, Norm. You want to say?
Commissioner Denton.
I just, I think we've met this, but this person is concerned that we should have the meetings at the community center instead of here because there's not enough room, but I think we've done that in the past.
Correct. And
without fail, but maybe this was an anomaly that night. And we probably, when we have the church, South Coast Church and so forth, I would assume that you would make that decision.
Right. When we expect it, we always move it there. We don't, the facility, we've gotten complaints from about that facility as well in terms of it's difficult to hear and the screen's so far back. So we tend to try not to use that facility unless we have to. So when we expect a big crowd, we do. So I think, in fact, we're adjourning tonight's meeting to that location for the August 11th meeting, anticipating that there will be a large crowd. And we do our best, but we don't have crystal balls. So when it's a surprise, it's difficult to schedule that in advance.
I think it's also hard on the staff, too, because there's so much setup that has to go on down there. It must cost the city extra money in terms of staff that you have to assign to that.
A bit, but that's, if it works out, it's just that we get a lot of complaints there as well. So it's not a preferred venue by the public, but at the same time, I think people prefer to sit instead of stand. So,
could I make a suggestion? How about using a high school facility?
Well, we have to coordinate with other people where at least we control the community center. And so in terms of the scheduling, it's easier to be able to know whether it's available or not. And in the summer, the school's closed. In fact, you can't even get anyone over there at all. Because I'm trying to register my son for school. I know that. But I'm sure if there was ever a meeting that was even larger than what we could accommodate, I really think it's better telecommunication equipment is what we need.
All right, thanks.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, I'd like to just ask, I don't know who to ask, but these monitors, it's becoming unbearable in the sense that, Gary and I can't see anything and we can't vote. And when I was talking to whoever it was last meeting about the tech guy, he was saying that City Council, I think, can still get stuff on their screens, but we have something different for Planning Commission, so we're not getting it, and it's just making my job more difficult because I can't see and we can't vote, and So anyway, if you can pass that on to somebody who can.
Right, certainly. I'm surprised about the city council because I know they've been taking roll call votes lately as well, yes, but maybe that's different from the actual screen, but we will pass that along, and we have, but we will pass that along again.
Trying to think. I don't really have anything
And then
suspicious.
also,
Go ahead.
one other thing, the concerts in the park, those have been pretty successful, so I just wanted, although there's not really anybody here, but I would like to encourage people to go, because it's a great thing to have in our town. So.
I mean, make a comment in that on the August 4th meeting, I will be out of town this next week, so I will miss that. So I will ask my fellow commissioners if you will take some notes for me, so we can all be on the same page. I would appreciate that. And if there are no other comments, does anybody have anything?
Let me just take the opportunity. So again, and Alicia, if you have anything to add in related to the Brown Act. So it will not be a noticed meeting. You can attend as members of the public, but because you are appointed commissioners, you should probably avoid sitting next to each other. And you shouldn't talk about anything related to any upcoming decisions that you might have. And I know the town center plan, it's going to be a general discussion about the town center plan. It is not going to be specific to any projects, but you have a number of projects coming before you in the town center. So the line is, it could be blurred. So I'm just going to caution you on that. But otherwise, I don't know if there's any other advice, Alicia, you have related to the Brown Act on that.
I'm sure Jennifer has talked to you about the two-person rule, not to coordinate with more than two people. So just if you do get notes from somebody, which is already maybe a little bit on dangerous grounds, I would not recommend getting notes from more than one other person.
Any volunteers?
Will the meeting be recorded or televised?
I don't think any of us really want to incriminate ourselves.
So I'm on my own. Okay.
You're not worth going to jail for.
Some bitch. I hear the jails for people like us are quite nice. Don't ask me how I know that. All right. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting of the Planning Commission, which will be held on Monday, August 11th, 2014, beginning at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter in the Dana Point Community Center gym located at 34052 Del Obispo, Dana Point, California. And the meeting is adjourned. One piece of paper to sign. Okay. Who?